Hi guys, here we are back for chapter 12. Um, decision making. We're going to talk about decision making chapter 12 and in chapter 13. So let's get going. All right, understand the activities involved in the consumer decision making process, which are not too dissimilar to other decision making processes, but in terms of the overall scope of it, but there are some little different nuances. Describe the three major decision making research perspectives, which we'll go through. Explain the three major types of decision making approaches. Research perspectives and approaches. Understand the importance of the consideration set in the decision-making process. We'll learn about that. And understand the factors that influence the type and amount of search performed by consumers. So as a marketer, like, why do I care about people's decision-making process? The point is that you want to, the marketer wants to get into someone's head and to figure out how they make decisions. And if they can grab the consumer at the time, the customer at the time that they're making the decision between your product and someone else's product and understand how they get there, then they can use their communication and the media and all those kinds of things to help persuade the customer in their direction. Okay, so you should remember this from Marketing 1. We talked about the basic decision-making process, need recognition, my shoe has a hole in it, my washing machine broke, my, slicker no longer has any waterproofing in it. Search for information, evaluation of alternatives. So you look at all the different options you can get, like all the different cars you could buy, or all the different types of, football jersey you could purchase, whatever. Search for information, evaluate all of them, make a decision. And then after that, when you make a decision and you actually buy something, and then post-choice evaluation, post-purchase behavior, which we also talked about. So let's get going. So decision making, it leads to consumer choice, and our people are looking for different things. Value, what is the value? What kind of value am I trying to get for this purchase? What's motivating me, and what kind of emotions might I have towards it? And when we talk about decision making, we like to think of ourselves as being very rational, and the fact of the matter is, because we're human, we're not. We could never be completely rational. Computers are rational, but because we have different experiences, and we know from the decision-making process of things that influence you in terms of temperament and personality and past experiences, all play a role in our decision. So rational decision-making. Consumers diligently gather information about purchases. They compare different things. They make informed decisions. And again, it assumes that human beings are rational creatures who carefully consider their decisions. But the fact of the matter is that we're really not. I mean, we are rational, but we are not without emotion or feeling. So we need to understand, as marketers, they need to understand what kind of value someone would apply to a decision or to a product. So experiential decision making is this idea that people make decisions based on emotional things, based on the emotional side of it, what their experiences have been with the product, and it really focuses on more hedonic value, which we talked about. And then sometimes people will look for something because they want to change. I want to get a different kind of car. I want to have some clothes that express a different part of my personality, or I've moved on from that part of my life, and I want to have other things. I don't want to be. I remember one time someone said to me, "I don't want to be that guy with a leather couch." It's like, that's a point. I mean, I don't really associate anything positive or negative with people with leather couches, but evidently he did. So he was trying to create variety in his life in terms of that. So changing things up, so to speak. Behavioral influences on decision-making perspective. Consumer decisions are learned responses to environmental influences. So that we have, what is it that we, like if things change, like we're used to in each culture, in each society, we are accustomed to things being a certain way. And how will you respond to that? So we talked a little bit about that before in the previous chapter about how atmosphere influences people. So types of risks faced by consumers: how much financial risk? How much are we willing to pay for something? Can we afford it? What's our financial situation at the time? Social risk, what will people think of me if I get this product? Will people think it's strange if I'm, wearing this kind of shoes or, this kind of jacket or whatever? Performance risk in terms of what is it that, will the product perform the way we want it to? The physical risk, the time risk, how much time am I putting into it? All those kinds of things that people think about these things. And people have different levels of risk aversion, and they might have different levels of risk aversion based on a variety of different factors, or it might also change from from type of purchase to type of purchase too. All right, so there are some, we talk about decision-making approaches, low involvement or high involvement. So generally speaking, low involvement items are things of low risk. They buy them out of habit. I always get the same kind of eggs. I always get the same kind of toothpaste. I always get the same kind of shampoo. I always buy the same type of running shoes or workout shoes because they fit my foot and I know they will. They feel good. And then high involvement are things that maybe have a little bit more higher risk to it. Larger purchase, a car, maybe a pair of boots, a pair of winter practical boots, a computer, things that cost more money that you're going to spend a little bit more time thinking about. So there are different, we talk about different types of decision-making approaches. Continuing on here. We have extended decision-making, and then limited decision-making is that people have, extended decision-making essentially is that people have time to look into it and they're not feeling pressured and clear-headed enough to find the best information that's going to help them reach a decision. And whereas limited decision-making is that people might just make them based on previous experiences, perceptions they have, attitudes they have that they may have developed themselves or they may have learned from other people. So they might not necessarily be accurate, but they're things that people believe. So extended decision-making, you try to look at things objectively. You might have the time to look through it. Limited decision-making is that you have a preconceived idea and you're not going to move from that preconceived idea. And you're not going to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You're just going to go for it. So again, there's habitual decision-making, which we talked about. Consumers don't seek information when they buy something on habit. Then sometimes it can be brand loyalty. I always buy Nestle chocolate, or I always buy my athletic equipment and clothing at Dick's. So it's brand loyalty. I always get Nike. So it really helps in the searching time. Marketers, if you are that person, you have brand loyalty, marketers love you. And sometimes for people, it can create a lot of benefit for someone because you don't have to spend a lot of time searching things online. And you feel you feel this affinity or you feel really good about wearing a certain brand. You feel good about wearing Under Armour. You feel good about wearing Nike. You feel good about wearing UGG, whatever it may be. So, and again, also this idea of long-term relationships. Brand inertia is that you buy something without any real attachment to it. You don't really think about it. You grew up using Colgate toothpaste. You just continue to use Colgate toothpaste. You're not, it's just what you do. You always, ate General Mills cereal, whatever. That's brand inertia. And then satisficing is basically just using shortcuts to arrive at some sort of decision. So that it's not necessarily, you're not really going to spend a lot of time, you're not maybe concerned about long-term quality, you're just going to buy. The satisficing is this idea that in decision-making, it's you just choose the first and the easiest alternative. You do not spend a lot of time doing research on it. Satisficing can be very bad for people because it's okay. It's like an okay decision. So I needed I needed to buy a new fleece, and I really didn't spend that much time thinking about it, and I bought it at such and such a store, and maybe I should have spent some more time, but it was easy, and I was there, and I didn't want to spend the time going to a different store to look for maybe a better quality fabric or better colors or whatever. That's satisficing. It's okay. All right, so need recognition. is this idea that you realize that what the actual state is, what the current state is, and what you want to have, what the perceived state. So I want to have, a chair that doesn't have a broken leg. I want to have, a bedspread that maybe is a little bit, that is more aesthetically pleasing, or matches the wallpaper in my room or the paint in my room, whatever. So actual state is what the current state is, and then desired state is what you want to have happen. So consumer search behavior, consumers engage in this activity as they seek information that can be used to satisfy needs. So they look at, what does that mean? They look at things, they're doing some research, then they're trying to figure things out so they can, satisfy what it is that they're looking for, satisfy whatever need they're going after. What is it they're trying to, improve the warmth in their home, or they're trying to, have a good vacation or something like that. That's the search behavior. So categorizing on consumer search behavior, this idea of ongoing search, you're always looking and up to date on the topic. What are the best skis to have? What are the best, speakers to have? What's the best, hotel chain to go on for vacation? Pre-purchase search, essentially you just do it at the immediate, within a relatively close time frame to when you're going to make the decision. Internal search is when you, based on your previous experience, and external search is when you look for information outside from other people. You ask friends, relatives, colleagues, you might look in a book or in a magazine or a publication. So the consideration set, what is it? We have all these choices. There's no doubt that we are spoiled with choice in 21st century America. There is a universal set of all cameras that are out there, universal set of all types of phones that are out there, universal set of all types of running shoes that are out there, living room chairs, lamps, whatever. The awareness set are the ones that you know of. There's no way that we can be aware of everything that's out there. So the awareness set is what we know of. And then in that, there are 3 different choices that we have: the consideration set, the inert set, and the inept set. And so what we're considering, what we don't really think about at all, and then inept is we don't consider it. Inert is we consider it, but we don't consciously necessarily think of it, or we just do it out of habit. And then inept is that we have no interest in. So best source for information, there's different factors that you could consider in determining what source of information you're looking for. So that how easy is it to get the information from the source? Like Consumer Report, is it easy to get information from Consumer Reports or not? How objective is it? That's something that you really have to be careful of. Particularly if you're going on a company's website, how objective is that website and the information they're sharing with you? How trustworthy is it? Objective, of course, going back to that, is the idea that it's without bias. How trustworthy is it? Is the source, are they trying to promote something that it might not be interested in? And how easy can the information be obtained? So price, of course, is always something that people consider, and that varies from person to person. It varies based on your own personal attitude towards money, your own attitudes towards saving and spending. Everyone has their own attitudes towards saving and spending. How much money someone has, how much money someone is willing to pay for a certain product over other products. So some people might be willing to pay a high price for something like a dishwasher or a washing machine because they know it's going to they're going to have it for a long time, but maybe they're not going to pay as much money for, say, certain types of clothing that they're not going to have for as long. So price, negative role, higher price indicates greater sacrifice to obtain some product. Positive role, price signals desirability of a product and level of prestige with owning the product. So these are things that, as I said, it's personal for each, but that's the idea. The marketer wants to understand how people feel about it. So role of quality in the search, people are really interested in quality, perceived quality of a goodness or badness of a product. So as I was mentioning just a moment ago, consumers don't always want high quality. There is this perception, and it's not always true. It often is true that higher prices mean better quality. It can mean that. That's something that you have to sort of research on your own. And as I said, certain situations don't require high quality, depending upon how often you're going to use a product, or what you're needing, what you're going to need it for. Some people always say, my mother always tells me, buy what I can afford, buy the best you can afford. And there's some truth to that, but sometimes you really don't need all that quality for the price. So also smartphone applications and impact consumer search, QR codes. That's having a mobile device when you're out shopping has really changed things. So QR codes, of course, are those things that look like they're square that you can scan and tells you information. You can do visual search. You can sometimes see augmented reality in terms of the product in actual use, or in a simulated use. GPS-based technologies based on where you are, that sort of lends to the creepy side, but that can impact, locations, looking if you're traveling and you're looking for a restaurant, for example. So there are other things, too, that are going to influence your information search. Product previous experience, how involved you are in the product, the risk, what the value you're looking for, how much time you have, what your attitudes are towards shopping. Some people love to shop, some people hate to shop. Everyone's very different about that. Different personal factors that we've talked about, level of risk, financial ability, the temperament, what your mood is, and then situational influencers. What's going on at the time, what is the context of the situation in your life at the moment, how do you feel, what else is going on, and all of these things, we would have them listed 8 different things listed separately, discreetly, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of them sort of all play into each other, and it's complicated and it's hard for marketers to understand, and they spend a lot of time trying to get into the head of the consumer to know what's going on. So it's on one hand a science, the research, but on the other hand very much of an art, understanding consumer behavior. So search regret. This idea, we refer to it as a cognitive dissonance, or sometimes post-purchase behavior, and negative emotions that come from a failed search process, or buying something that, not finding what you're looking for, or finding something that you're not happy with, and maybe you come up empty-handed, whatever it may be. And that's a problem. That can be a problem for marketers. So that's why marketers want to be able to try to encourage you to find things as easily as you can. So this is a summary of this consumer decision-making process: need recognition, information search, classical process that we've talked about before, alternative evaluation, choice, post-choice evaluation, different types of decision-making perspectives, rational, experiential, behavioral, different types of approaches are used, and then different factors are going to influence why you're going to purchase something. So that is a wrap on Chapter 12. We're going to see you back here for Chapter 13 when we talk about decision-making to alternative evaluation choices. Thanks, everyone, for listening.